where you can see the door open. It doesn't seem that they've made much more progress beyond that door opening and a good portion of them actually going in. Now, while there was law enforcement in this area a little bit earlier in the evening, we have not seen any in the last 30 minutes or so to this point, as they are now clearly, it seems to have breached at least one of the doors here, but at the very least, everyone out in the street making as much noise truly as humanly possible.
So as we speak, left-wingers seem fully intent on recreating the Summer of Love in Minneapolis, and just last night, if you didn't see this, they basically went around breaking into random hotels to try to figure out which ones the ICE agents were actually staying in. Now, needless to say, by my understanding, they never found a single ICE agent, but they did terrorize a bunch of random hotel workers and cause potentially thousands of dollars in property damage. But after all, what else is new? I mean, that's very deeply rooted in left-wing ideology itself. All these people know how to do is destroy. They never do anything constructive for society, so why should we expect them to do anything differently on their big Summer of Love? Now, God only knows what they would have done if they actually found a single ICE agent, but given the terroristic behavior of leftists nowadays, I don't exactly think they would have been there to shake hands. But it's worth noting that as we're sitting here and watching all of this domestic terrorism play out, that it's being directly enabled, much like it was, by the way, back in 2020, by the local and state government. Because, folks, the only reason why this crazy mob was allowed to basically run around downtown and cause a bunch of damage and a bunch of problems is directly because of the fact that the Minneapolis police retreated from the scene. That is right. The second time in 5 years where we see them giving up the streets to an angry mob. And yes, that directly reflects on Jacob Frey. Yes, it directly reflects on Tim Walz. They seem to be of the position, hey, let's allow our city to burn for the second time, which really does also make me beg the question, if you're the Trump administration right now, if you're the federal government, understanding what was arguably one of the catastrophic mistakes of Trump's first term, hey, you should have put down those riots immediately and not been worried about being called fascist or racist, whatever. I don't know. Maybe it might be time for that discussion, especially if this continues further on into tonight. We'll talk about that, guys. We'll give you this full chronicle on the, night of love last night in Minneapolis. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate the support. And that said, I mean, let's kind of show you the initial scenes here so you can see, a bunch of protesters, I shouldn't use that word, a bunch of agitators out in the streets. Some appear to be Somali, some appear to be just crazy leftists. So yeah, you can see that's how it starts, right? A bunch of screaming, shouting, waving the Somali flag, fully trying to demonstrate, of course, where the real loyalties of the Minnesota Democrat Party lie. And that is with a failed state and an awful country that apparently they love so much, they want to mimic so much, they're so proud of bringing that culture over here. That is the reason why Somalia is such a awful and failed country. But apparently, when we try to deport people who say they love Somalia, Somalia's their home, hey, go back to Somalia, suddenly we're called the bad guys. But of course, the confrontations begin. Here they are, for instance, blocking a police vehicle. And then quite interestingly, right? So you're already kind of seeing where this is going. The crowd's extremely unruly. It's getting up to 11, 12 a.m., Eastern time, at least, over in that place. And interestingly here, the Minneapolis police makes the bright idea, hey, this seems perfectly under control. Let's all sit here and retreat and leave the scene. That's right. They actually did this. They just left.
Really? Back up. Why are you letting your city get like this? Why are you letting your city devolve like this? Let's go. What the fuck is going on? Fuck you! Fuck you! You're a bunch of fucking bitches! Fuck you! Fuck you! No, not me.
Yeah, so straight up, they just surrender the streets. I mean, if you ever want any indication of who's really in charge here, who, by the way, is in charge of the Democrat Party and the local government and the state government, right? It's not any voice of sanity or law and order. It's the mob. The mob is controlling the government. And that is, of course, the very reason why the mob basically says, hey, leave, get out of here. We don't want you here. And the police just comply. They're just walking away. Okay, surrendering the streets. Keep that phrase in your head here. Now, you could sit there and say, well, maybe they're doing that because, they're going for backup, because clearly there's only a handful here of police officers. There don't seem to be enough of them, and they're not, doing a good job, obviously being able to control the situation. But I would point out to you that this supposed call for backup, first of all, took about, at least it seems to me, like 2 hours. They basically just surrendered the streets for that long period in between. And then secondly, I would say, so first of all, I mean, you see the situation that's breaking out here. This does appear to be a unsanctioned protest from what I can tell, given by the fact that there's still actually cars here on the road. So the leftists just basically took over the road. And I really have to question, knowing the social situation right now, right? Knowing, first of all, how violent and angry leftists already are, and then on top of it, what they're angry about, right? And according to them, it's not true, but an ICE agent just murdered a U.S. citizen. Why would you not immediately come to the situation thinking to yourself, it's Friday night, it's late, the leftists are out in the streets, we need to be ready for full-blown riots and full-blown acts of terrorism, right? You can sit there and try to say, our people don't behave like that, but they do, and you've seen the evidence of that time and time again, and really, this is your response? This is all you sent out to make it look like you have some show of law and order, and then when the protesters get angry, the police just get up and walk away and then leave the streets to the protesters for several hours on end? No, let me just say that in one way or another, this is by design, right? This is intentional, okay? So a total failure, obviously, by local government. But I'm sure if Trump comes out in the next few days and says, hey, clearly the police don't have control of the streets, let's deploy the National Guard, Tim Walz is going to say, that's authoritarian overreach, that's unnecessary, the police have everything fully under control, just like Karen Bass said, just like the mayor of Portland said, and many others. And here you see video evidence of the police quite literally not having the situation under control and just running away as the mob is throwing stuff at them. Yeah, that's right. Now, that said, as you could imagine, now these streets belong to the protesters, and they started to act accordingly, now breaking in to random hotels, including the Canopy Hilton in Minneapolis, and trying to find which one the ICE agents were staying in. Apparently, they heard some random rumor, ICE is in this hotel. No proof, by the way, but here's what happens next.
Here we are at the scene of a protest. This is the Canopy Hotel where protesters think ICE is staying. They've been in the street. They've blocked off this whole section. It's not the only thing they've blocked off. They blocked off a police car today. We saw them hitting the police car. The police car finally got past, and they were throwing snowballs at it. They've been spray painting profanity on these buildings. This restaurant right there, the Chloe restaurant, has closed its doors tonight for safety of its staff. This protest was scheduled from 7 to 9. It's currently 10 p.m., and we're in the last, maybe what looks like the last hour.
Yeah, and then here's what happens next. So, first of all, they start banging on the windows of this hotel trying to get in. They figure out eventually that ICE was not actually staying there. They were just terrorizing a random hotel for no reason. As I said, these are not the best and brightest people, but after all, if their function on Earth is to simply cause destruction and cause problems, then I guess in that sense, their goals here were fulfilled. But then they proceeded apparently to just basically start going hotel to hotel and going to all of them and just terrorizing a bunch of people here trying to figure out, which one is ICE in? And in the process, again, I repeat, they never found a single ICE agent. They just caused a bunch of terror for a bunch of random people all over the city.
We're going in. Oh shit, this is a great shot. Insane.
Yeah, so I just want to say, first of all, amazing logic by these people, by the way. Hey, let's terrorize our own community and destroy our own city in order to protest something that the federal government is doing, which is not located in Minneapolis. Yeah, makes a whole lot of sense. It's the same logic back in the same city 5 years ago, right? Let's destroy a bunch of black businesses in the black community in order to protest white supremacy. And secondly, by the way, frankly, it tells you a lot because these people claim that ICE is what? The Gestapo. They're just murdering American citizens. They're just going to go shoot you, right? That's the narrative they're painting. And yet, at least in their own heads, I mean, they're not doing a very good job, but the whole point of this is what? They want to go and have a confrontation with ICE? I thought ICE was going to murder them. Clearly, they seem to be walking around the streets, frankly, extremely boldly. If that were the case, they seem to be confronting the ICE agents just fine if, supposedly the secret police is just going to disappear you. They're disappearing U.S. citizens. They're murdering U.S. citizens. Oh, they don't actually, in reality, forget their words. Look at their actions. Do they seem all that scared of that? No, absolutely not. And frankly, they don't even seem scared of arrest, which, given their actions in this case, I would argue they should be. But, obviously we, frankly, even 5 years later, unfortunately, still live in a two-tiered country where left-wing terrorists largely can get away with whatever they want. I mean, it's not as bad as it was 5 years ago. Sure, I'll give it that. But still, massive problems with all of this. Now, that said, I once again want to repeat to people, this is all happening specifically without law enforcement present. Now, it's not a conspiracy. I showed you the video, right? Minneapolis police just fled the scene and allowed them to do this for hours on end. And it got so insane that even CNN was sitting there saying, where are the police? I mean, look at this reporter. He seems actually physically scared. Even the fake news is admitting it. So take a listen.
So, Laura, right now we are in downtown Minneapolis. We've been following this protest outside of a hotel where these protesters believe federal agents may be staying. And just in the last few seconds, it appears they're trying to get actually inside this hotel. You can see this ramp that they were all around me a few seconds ago, and now they're up this ramp. I can see a door open to this particular hotel, and you can see and hear how much noise they're actually making right now. Earlier, they were shining lights on some of the windows, truly making as much noise as humanly possible to this point, banging on drums, blowing their whistles, out with their signs as well. This is at least the second hotel they have been to in the downtown Minneapolis area, appearing to be under the belief that agents are staying at the hotels at which they arrive. Now,
yeah, so again, I repeat, they don't actually know what hotel ICE is in. They're just like, hey, let's shine these lights at random people's windows. Let's terrorize and scare the crap out of a bunch of random hotel workers. And we don't even have proof that ICE is in the building. But of course, right? That shows you the logic of these people too, by the way. What are they so mad about right now? That whole ICE shooting, right? We've tried to argue, hey, legally, morally, and just physically, logically, right? That ICE agent acted in self-defense. And these like TikTok lawyers are trying to say, no, they disagree with that. It was totally unjustified. But you're getting an idea right now, right? The reason why they think that ICE agent should be arrested is because this is their idea of justice, Hey, we have no proof. We have no idea where ICE is, but let's just terrorize everyone until we find them, right? Let's just walk around like a mob in the French Revolution and, maybe we'll stumble into ICE, maybe not. Let's terrorize a bunch of people in the process. Imagine staying in this hotel, by the way. Imagine being a random hotel worker, just at the reception working, and a bunch of domestic terrorists suddenly start trying to break in. Yeah. And the police, and then you call, I'm guessing, right? You call 911. Hey, there's a bunch of crazy terrorists trying to break in and kill people in this hotel. Dude, they don't answer. Yeah. That's Minneapolis for you. And by the way, as I so often say, right? Before Democrats try to make any logical arguments that, sure, we have a bunch of crazy, violent, mentally ill voters, but they're not in charge of the party. Oh, quite literally they are. Quite literally, they're running the streets right now of a Democrat-ran city. They're in charge. They control the show.
Again, you can hear the drums, but I can't emphasize enough. It was just a few seconds ago, as we're going to get closer to this ramp to see what we can see. Excuse me here. Where you can see the door open. It doesn't seem that they've made much more progress beyond that door opening and a good portion of them actually going in. Now, while there was law enforcement in this area a little bit earlier in the evening, we have not seen any in the last 30 minutes or so to this point, as they are now clear.
So there's CNN also confirming what we just said. They just left. The police just straight up and left. People could be killed in this situation, by the way, right? I mean, what are they going to do if they get in? And according, even if they don't find the ICE agents, so according to them, because you've seen some of that hotel controversy this whole week, if a hotel allows ICE agents inside, then they are complicit, whatever, in the fascist takeover of America. So therefore, are the hotel workers also guilty? We have no idea. You know how you could stop this? The police come in and break up the whole situation, right? Or send the National Guard. Oh, wait, Tim Walz only wants to use the National Guard against ICE agents, right? Not against the rioters and agitators and terrorists here. So
it seems to have breached at least one of the doors here, but at the very least, everyone out in the street making as much noise truly as humanly possible. And when you look at the size, it actually isn't the overall biggest that we've seen, but you actually see here they've climbed a ladder of this other little vestibule here on the side, and they're up there observing as well, as you've got apartments around the surrounding area on top of that. So this is a protest that had been marching through the city and through downtown Minneapolis in particular, and this is the latest stop where they've made their move here to just...
Oh, just want to point out, by the way, I mean, here you have directly, what's that flag flying? Oh, Communist Party USA. So let's just be clear. I've been saying ever since the Charlie Kirk assassination that the Democrat Party and the entire liberal voter base is infiltrated and overrun by communists, and it's kind of Tim Walz the other day was talking about the Joseph McCarthy moment. Yeah, we could use one actually right now. Yeah, because it is true. American institutions are captured by communists. That includes your own governor's office. But, before you want to say it's conspiracy theory, there you see the communist flag, and it's not just like an isolated case, right? Every Democrat protest we've seen for the past week or so, right, all the way back to the whole Venezuela thing, overran with this type of stuff. I mean, I don't know if it's the Mamdani election, I don't know what it is, but much more boldly these days, you see a lot more of these leftists just showing up openly saying like, yeah, we're communists. Yeah. So the Democrat Party absolutely has a communist problem, and, how did this country used to handle those issues? You tell me.
Made their move here to just oh, and you know what, I'm going to turn here. You can see the lights that they were shining on the sides of the building here, trying to get into some of the windows with that light, which we saw them doing previously on the other side of the building as well. So Laura, clearly we knew there was anger here with federal immigration agents being in the city of Minneapolis, and these protesters making it known they do not want them, not only in the city, but not even staying in the hotel.
Well, very fitting, by the way, because what have communists done for all of history? They've just straight up lied, right? They lie about everything. Oh, if you cross the Berlin Wall, it's evil dystopia there. And then people cross and are like, this is amazing, right? The imperialist capitalist people are great. Same situation here, though, right? Because you have a case where an ICE agent acted in self-defense, and they're basically saying, don't believe your eyes, don't believe your ears, don't believe the video. Don't you know the evil fascist regime just murdered somebody? They do this all the time. And then, by the way, how did they get into that situation? This is very important because this is basically the history of organized communism in the West, right? They intentionally agitate. They intentionally get into the position where, oh shoot, like the ICE agent is about to be run over by a car, and then of course sit there and play the victim when in some way or another, right, they face consequences for their own actions. So similar situation going on here. I'd just like to point that out. But anyways, that said, I'd further like to note that, if you think this morning you're going to see any condemnations of this behavior from local or statewide or even national Democrats, don't hold your breath. As a matter of fact, they continue to sit here and cheer and egg on the protesters themselves. Take a listen.
I am here on behalf of my entire community, echoing the calls to arrest, to prosecute and fire this ICE agent who murdered Renee Good, and to hold those accountable complicit in this crime. What has descended upon Minneapolis and in this state is not the American dream. It is not what the American dream is about. Our immigrant neighbors are here to work. They're here to provide for their family and to achieve prosperity. Instead, what we are seeing in Minneapolis and across the state is...
So, I mean, you admit, by the way, that they're just here as economic migrants? That's actually really interesting because I was told the legal justification that the Biden administration and even prior governments gave for allowing illegals to stay, the temporary protected status, was because they were refugees. They're asylum seekers. They're fleeing for their lives. Because guess what, buddy? Minneapolis City Councilman Jason Chavez here. Wanting economic opportunity is not a valid legal reason to seek asylum or seek refugee status, okay? I'm poor or I want more money is not you fleeing for your life. So I ask the question here then in this case, are you yourself admitting that the millions of illegals in our country are actually here for completely illegitimate reasons, and they're basically here to, first of all, lie and defraud the United States from the moment they get here because they say they're seeking asylum when they have no valid claim to do so, and then basically just loot our country? Oh, they're just here to make money. Yeah, so what you mean is they're here to undercut American wages, take stuff for themselves, right? Get their own economic opportunities, okay. But then you want to say, oh, that's a net good for the economy. No, send the majority of it back to remittances out of the United States of no function to our economy, because that's a recurring trend, especially that we see out of a place like Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, just want to point that out. But of course, main point here, he's already calling for the arrest of the ICE officer. Now, 2 seconds ago, Democrats were saying, we want a full investigation, blah, blah, blah. Now they're just straight up saying, oh, we don't care. He needs to be arrested. He needs to go to jail because he was an ICE officer. Straight up, that's how they feel. And Jacob Fry, similar rhetoric. Take a listen.
Up until last night, we hadn't had any shootings in this city other than ICE. Our city is safe. Our city is welcoming.
Oh, your city is safe. It's welcoming, huh? Because everything I've heard about Minneapolis, Minnesota in the past 10 years is just so welcoming. Hey, look how welcoming these people are. Look how safe this whole situation is. It's just so ridiculous. I mean, after all, Jacob, if your city's so safe and welcoming, then why aren't people coming, huh? How come, all your businesses in downtown, they've closed down over the past couple years? Your police force is running dangerously low in terms of their numbers because no one wants to join the police. People don't want to live here anymore. People are concerned, by the way, about the crime and the violence and all the issues. The only kind of new migration you've gotten into the city, frankly, in several decades is people coming from, the second lowest HDI country on earth, that being Somalia, just absolute failed state. And then they, of course, got here and, contributed and continued much of the same. But yeah, this is also safe and welcoming, guys. Yeah, 100%, right? Well, actually, I'll correct that. Welcoming the fraudsters. Yeah, that's the very reason ICE is even in the city, right? But anyways, there you essentially have it. We'll talk more about this as the weekend goes on, but just wanted to show you that. So we have the Summer of Love here going on, and I'll just repeat, what was that political mistake we made in 2020 on Minneapolis? Not sending the guard sooner, letting Tim Walz have too much control of the situation. I'm just going to repeat, if this continues into tonight and tomorrow, federal government, maybe there's something that we got to be thinking about here. But anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.